For me, and for many others, one of the highlights of going on holiday is taking photographs to remember the time you spent with friends and family and the different cultures that you experience. However, something that's always stood out to me is the fact that all holiday photographs, no matter where you are or who took them or what camera they are shot on, a lot of the time they look very similar. And I think the reason for this is that people tend to take photographs without really thinking about where they are, without really looking to tell a story through the photographs when they're taking photos of their loved ones, their family, themselves when they're on holiday. And by doing this, they then tend to capture the humanity, the culture, the architecture, the food, and the feeling of being on holiday. So here are some things that I think about when I'm taking photographs of my trip. And hopefully there's something in there that you can learn too, to stand above the rest and take some holiday photographs that really capture where you are. In photography, it could be argued that the single most important point of your photograph is your subject matter. When we're on holiday, we're surrounded by completely new experiences and new environments. When I'm on my trips, just like when I'm walking around town, cities, walking to work, with my camera or without my camera, I like to focus on the humanity of where I am. And for me, a big part of that is the different people and the culture of where you are. For example, last year I went to Budapest and I really like my street photography. So I spent a whole day dedicated to using my camera to capture moments on the street, focusing on the people, the culture, and the humanity of where I was. When you're out there with your camera, there are often times where you'll see moments of human connection that you won't typically be looking for anyway. Moments of a couple embracing, or a child playing with a toy, or helping one another out. And they're the kind of moments which I love to focus on and I like to take photographs on, especially when I'm on holiday. The great thing about people and culture as well is that although you are capturing humanity, but that humanity doesn't have to include people. For example, if your subject matter happens to be saucepans hanging outside of the door of a restaurant, or a market stall, or some laundry being hung on the streets of an old town, there may not be people involved in the images themselves, but they were put there by people, and that shows the humanity of where you are and the culture and the history and the experiences of people who live there. Focusing on people and culture also leads on to the next point, which is all about architecture. Now, when we're on holiday, we all look at different forms of architecture, the different buildings that are there. A lot of us have photographs of us stood in front of these buildings, but we don't often tend to look at them through a lens that appreciates them for what they are, and the fact that these were built by people hundreds of years ago, sometimes even a few years ago as well, and they all tell a story. When you focus on architecture, try to capture the different forms of architecture compared to where you live, not just the popular buildings in the old town and the tourist destinations, but also the more normal buildings that people work in and people live in. The great thing about travelling, going to different countries and different cities and different places, is that the buildings where you are, they're all a product of where they are, where they're based, and the people who live there. For example, Venice being a Mediterranean city built on wooden stilts with bridges and canals is completely different to Prague, which is built on a hill or along a river in a more temperate, cooler climate. And both of those cities are completely different to places like New York, which are more modern, more urban, and have more skyscrapers and glass, modern glass kind of architecture. And these are really important points that you can get through with your photographs and show the humanity and the human connection of where you are without necessarily focusing on people themselves, but what they create. And this leads on to the last point about subject matter. Focus on colour. The different places you go to will use colour in different ways, whether that's to how buildings are painted, or the nature and how the buildings interact with the trees and plants in the area, or even what people wear as well. Humans connect really emotionally with colour, so incorporating colour in your photography and using that as a subject matter can really help tell a story to allow you to connect with the viewer of your photograph. With all these points being said about focusing on different subject matters, don't allow that to constrain yourself when you're taking your photos of your holiday, when you're taking photographs of your family and your loved ones. Just allow yourself to take back and see if there's a different way that you can capture the moment. Now you might be wondering, hey Morgan, what about if I want to take photographs of my girlfriend or my friend or my family member when I'm on holiday? Obviously I take photographs of my loved ones and family and friends and myself when I'm on holiday as well, but I like to try and incorporate a way to do it so it doesn't feel as staged and not as posed. Whether that's by taking photographs when walking behind someone or when interacting with elements of their environment. These can really help tell like a human story, which when you look at them in 10, 20, 30 years time on your photo albums, when you print them out, you'll really be able to feel the moments better than if you were just to stand in front of a building and say cheese. Another thing to bear in mind as well is the type of camera that you use and the photographic medium that you use when you travel and go on holiday. Now, the majority of people, myself included, wouldn't be able to take their full kit with them, but most people have their phones on them, and there's a lot you can do with your phone camera when taking photographs if you haven't got your full kit. In 2025, most people take photographs on holiday with their phone, and while this might be the easiest and most readily available option available to them, many people don't use it to their full potential. Most modern smartphones nowadays allow you to shoot RAW, which allows you to have a lot more creative control and ability to edit your photographs when you're editing in post. When tied with an editing app like Lightroom, for example, you can create some really visually appealing images straight from your pocket without the need for a big cumbersome laptop or your camera with you. As a result of digital and modern photography nowadays, we're able to take hundreds of photographs, oftentimes without thinking about our subject matter, our composition, the light and the story we're trying to tell with our images. So when I'm shooting digitally, what I tend to do when I'm on holiday is I try to limit myself to take no more than, let's say, 30 images a day. And by doing this, it forces me to think a lot more about the story I'm trying to tell, the composition, the lighting, and the general structure, the mise en scène of the photograph. This is a technique that many people tend to do. It might be something that might be easier to do if you have a digital point and shoot camera, for example, rather than shooting on your phone, because you can get a smaller SD card, so you are limited, and it kind of emulates the effect of shooting with a film camera. Which brings me to the next point, shooting on film. Shooting on film has a unique effect of being tangible. You're physically shooting onto a piece of celluloid, which you then get developed and you take to a photochemist and they can print the photographs for you and you can develop them and you can actually hold them in your hands. And by doing so, it really personifies the trip of the holiday that you went on. Now, when shooting on film, in the past I've used a disposable camera, but I recently picked up a 35mm point and shoot camera, and the main reason why I did this was not just for the improved image quality, shooting through a glass lens, but also the ability to choose and have a lot more creative control over this film stock I use. When I recently went on holiday, I was able to choose if I wanted to use Portrait 400 or Gold 200, or even use something like black and white film stock like my favourite Ilford HP5. I have a lot more control over that, and I have a lot more flexibility as a result and be able to choose film stock. Plus, point and shoot cameras are better than disposable cameras for the planet, so it's a win-win, something definitely to consider. Photography is all about capturing lights. At the end of the day, that's what we mean by taking a photo, capturing the photons in our environment onto celluloid film or a digital sensor. Work with the light rather than trying to fight it. Capture the light from the sun or from artificial light sources. Focus on the shadows, the harsh and soft shadows that might be created from buildings overcasting other buildings, blocking out the sun but creating a really nice, beautiful photograph. Also consider what time of day you're taking your photograph as well. A lot of people always talk about using the golden hour, but you could always use the harsh light that's created in a cloudless day as part of your narrative, or the night time where you are relying solely on candlelight or artificial light in the streets. Using the light available to you and not relying on equipment like a flash gun or any external light source will really create some really nice images that you'll be able to put in your photo album that will really capture the location where you are and help you remember it for many years to come. Holidays are a highlight in our lives and they deserve a place in our photo albums. However, they don't just have to be a snapshot of our history. They can be a window into our past by capturing the emotion of the moment. I've just got back from holiday from a lovely place in France called Carcassonne, and being able to open up the prints I got developed and be able to see the culture and the experiences that I experienced as if there's a window into the past made the trip all the more worth it. Thank you for your time, and I really hope you're able to learn something from this video about taking photographs on holiday and be able to capture the true human emotion and the emotive moments when you're on a trip. It'd be really great to see some of the photographs that you're able to take with these tips as well. So let me know in the comments if there's any place that you go into, and feel free to send me a link to any photographs. I would really like to see them. And remember, capture the humanity in every day. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.